Welcome to This Daring Adventure podcast, where we work on bridging the gap between where we are and where we want to be in order to live a bigger and bolder life. In this podcast, we will provide inspiration, tips, and skills you need to make your life the adventure you want it to be. Here's your host, mindset mentor, and life coach, Trista Gurton.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Daring Adventure. This week, I have another special guest. I've had a nice run of really interesting women I've been able to interview and have on the show. And today is no different. I have Sandy Colling. Welcome, Sandy. Sandy is originally German, living in New York City. She is the host of the podcast Just Travel with Sandy. And she has created Sandy's Travel Lounge, what looks like a lot of fun, and you can tell us about that too. So welcome so much, Sandy. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I wish I were in the city. I'm actually in upstate New York. But
Oh, okay. Sorry.
that's totally fine because I love New York City. I'm luckily only 2 hours away, so I do get to go.
You can get in and out whenever you want. That's nice.
Exactly. I love New York City.
Right. How long have you lived there?
We've only been here a year. We moved here from California on the 1st of April. So I'm just looking, today's Patty's Day. So just under a year we're in this area, moved from Northern California.
Okay. And then when did you move to the States?
Long time ago. I moved to America in 1993.
Oh, okay.
So I've been in America quite some time and moved all over really in the States.
Okay. Well, we met through our love of travel here, and you very kindly had me on as a guest on your podcast, Just Travel with Sandy, earlier in the month. And we had such a great conversation and so much fun talking that I thought it would be great to have you on here. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about your travel story, how you got into it, and where you've been? And
Yeah. So it was great having you as a guest in 78 countries. I cannot compete, not that it's a competition, but I just love that. And that's a goal. I've made that a goal.
Nice.
But so being from Europe, as you know, it's easier to get around.
Right.
So I was born in France, raised in Germany, and a little bit of a sad story, but there's always something good that comes out of something bad. I had a brother who passed when I was 9 and he was 6. So my parents never stayed home for any holidays.
Okay.
We always traveled. And that's how it started from the age of 6. We traveled all over the world every summer. In Germany, we have 3 weeks Easter vacation, 6 weeks summer vacation, 3 weeks at Christmas. So we have more spread out.
Yeah.
So every time we went away, we stayed in Europe, we went to Hong Kong, we went to, everywhere. And that honestly, as a child, I was like, kind of sad sometimes because I wanted the Santa Claus thing, Christkind, as we say in Germany, but as I got older, I'm like, this is really cool.
Mhm.
And I remember when we were in Hong Kong the one year for Christmas, we were in the hotel and the TV came on and it was a John Wayne movie. And my father said, I didn't know John Wayne could speak Chinese. And so and I traveled all over the world with my parents. So I'm super grateful for that. And and it never left me. And then when my children, they were on a plane the first time in 6 weeks and 4 weeks, we traveled to Ireland because my ex-husband's from Ireland. Then we went to Germany. So they kind of just, I don't know, through osmosis, like they're big travelers too. So that's really where it stemmed from. And it is truly a passion of mine, travel.
Right. I think when you're exposed to it that early, it just becomes part of your DNA and it's very hard to stop. You don't want to stop. And like you said, like there's so many places to go. I know I keep adding to my list every year. So
I know, right? It's funny because I also lead groups to Europe. So I went to Germany last year. I'm going to Ireland in June. I'm going to France in September. But next year I have India planned. And now something came on the horizon somewhere I've never been, but always wanted to go is Namibia and see the animals and all that. So that is kind of like on the horizons. And there's a lot of places that I like to go back. Like I've been to Ireland dozens of times just because my ex-husband was Irish and we went to Ireland at least once a year. But still, and France. I was born in France, but there's so like every country, like you can, but seeing everything, right? And everywhere has its nuances. Like my home country, the South is so different to the North. It's
Yes,
like, yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's true. A lot of my travel was done either for work or it was on vacations, like sort of breaks, like R&R. And sometimes you're working, you're living in difficult conditions. Like when I got out, I found I was quite tired, but
Yeah.
I was traveling to some of these places. So I really had to pace myself and I really made peace with I don't need to see everything. I can see some of the highlights, some of the things I really want to see, and then I'll come back if I really
Well,
want to.
that's it. And just somebody asked me actually the other day about they want to go to Europe and they have a week, like 8 days, and they wanted to go to 4 countries. Which four would I recommend? So I kind of very diplomatically had to say, well, I wouldn't go to 4 countries in 8 days.
No.
It's doable, but do you want to spend your whole time on the plane or in the car or
Yeah.
in, on the train? Or do
Yeah.
you actually want to see? You can always go back. So that's exactly my point. You can't do everything anyway. And I'd rather have quality than quantity.
Right. And sometimes just having that time to sit in a cafe or sit in a park and just enjoy some of the local culture and scenery and ambiance, it's nice to just have that time where you're not rushing around trying to see everything and do everything, right?
And we talked about that on the podcast when you were so kindly a guest on Just Travel with Sandy. Um, the solo travel thing, right? That's why I like to travel on my own because I can do just that. I love nothing more, honestly, and I've done it so often on the Champs-Élysées, sitting in a sidewalk cafe and just watching people. I could sit there literally all day. It's
Yes.
just, it's just, and you can't do that if you're rush, 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 right?
Right. Yes. And that happened to me last May. I was in Paris for a few days and was just walking back to my hotel, walking along the Seine, and there was this little I don't know, it was a cafe. It was basically this little trailer set up along on the bank, and they had wine and whatnot. And it was the weather was beautiful. I had a view of the Eiffel Tower, and
Mm.
I thought you're able to take that time just to spontaneously just sit, take an hour, have a glass of wine, just relax, and not worry that you're missing something.
Exactly. Take it all in because that to me, travel really isn't necessarily about the destination. It's about the experience. It's about the culture. It's about the foods. It's about the smells. It's about so much more than I've been to Paris, London, Rome, and whatever, Namibia. It's
Sure.
about everything that goes around it and how it really, for me anyway, every trip I take, even if it's been to a country that I've been to before, stepping out, it's always something that makes you step out of your comfort zone
Mm.
because there's always an experience that's different. And I love nothing more. I
Mhm.
really do.
Yeah, and it is a very empowering opportunity and situation where you land somewhere, you figure it out, you get to the hotel, I just feel like even still, no matter how many places I've traveled, if I can navigate my way and get out and see some of these places, it's like kick ass. I'm like so excited and so proud of myself still.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I think I mentioned this. I have somebody that's coming to Ireland with me who's never been outside of America. And I
Mhm.
was on a Zoom call with her and her friend who's going as well. And it was just they're so excited, right? Because of what they're going to experience. And so I try to convey a little bit of that. And although we're in a group, they're still doing it, right? Still getting out. And I just think it's so great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I really do wish everybody had that experience and I don't talk about it enough on my podcast, but I really do want to encourage women to get out there and do that. And I think I mentioned on your podcast that I started because at 19 I wanted to go to Europe and my friend backed out and I decided I'm going to go and if it's a matter of staying home or going, I was going to go regardless. And so don't use that excuse that you don't have anybody to go with. Don't allow it to hold you back.
Well, and that's what somebody said to me a few weeks ago, actually. And I'm like, you're really never on your own. Even if you go, you're never alone. If
No.
you want to meet people, you're going to meet people. Now, I'm an introvert. I like doing my own thing, but I can still speak up with it, talk to anybody. And I've been alone and been invited to have dinner or go tag along
Right.
or whatever. So you really, if you put that out there, you're never really alone.
Right. And there's so many experiences now. I think back like when I first started traveling and to today, Airbnb has experiences. Like there are so many different options for lessons you can take and dinners. I've done dinners, like people will cook dinners in their homes and have like dinner
Yep.
parties. And yeah, it's
So I helped a couple here. They've always wanted to go to Ireland. It was their 35th or whatever wedding anniversary, 45th something. So anyway, I helped them plan a trip to Ireland and I have a connection in Ireland. He's actually one of the premier guides in Ireland. He's amazing, Liam. And anyway, they're both chefs. And so they wanted to do some of that. And people have this thing about Ireland, the food sucks. Well, the food has actually changed a lot. Food in Ireland has become really, really good. But they went to Kate's and they baked scones. And they said it was like the best. And it was in her kitchen.
yeah,
And and then they made bread too, I think, but they had the best experience. If that's, I
yeah,
have to like, you have to twist my arm to cook because it's not one of my
right. Yeah, I
but you're right. There's for everything. You can definitely do it.
So you never have to be completely on your own. You can find things and just have a real different variety of
Yep.
activities so that you
Yep.
don't have to figure it all out by yourself. So I know I did a fabulous cheese tasting experience in Paris last year, and that was definitely a highlight.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
There was also an Airbnb experience. I didn't do it, but I was looking at it. The weather wasn't great, but it was a motorcycle tour of
Oh.
Paris at night.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's the guy who has a motorcycle and he takes people around all the sites, but at night with all the lights and
Oh,
everything.
wow. Yeah, there's really everything. There's so much out there for every taste, every budget, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get into this? Like how you started, did you start with tours? Did you start with the podcast? Like how did this all come about?
So how it all came about is I wanted to do something different and I'm an equestrian. So my first thing was equestrian journeys. Now, not riding trips. My idea was to take people to Europe and teach them about the European his equestrian history and culture because it is so ingrained in Europe. Take Germany, for example. We have all the warm bloods and we dressage and the history and I mean, it's so that's what I did. And that's what my trip was in July to Germany. We went to the oldest stud farm in Germany, Marbach, 1562. We did a plan covered wagon ride with Alt Württemberger, which is a breed that's nearly extinct. There's only 30 brood, that kind of thing.
Well,
And it spiraled from there because Ireland is also an equestrian journeys, but it's not just for riders. We are going to do actually a beach ride on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And we're going to the Curragh, which is the big racetrack. But I mean, non-equestrians like that too. But out of that evolved that I didn't want to just do because I didn't want to do horseback riding. There's a million out there. I don't want to do that. Even though I love horses, I'm an equestrian. I didn't want to do that. And so I pivoted it to travel tours and then out of that came, I had several people say to me, I'd love to go, but, and that mindset. So that's when I went into actually, and I don't want to say coaching because I'm not a coach,
mhm.
but I've done a lot of personal development and a lot of experience around traveling, helping people shift their mindset that it doesn't have to be that way. There's things you can do to overcome that and then pivot that way. So that's basically where that stemmed from. And I'm actually in the process of building a digital course around that
Okay.
and around the mindset and then travel tips for newbies, for people who haven't traveled but are curious but don't know where to start. Because when you think about it, you Google, I want to go to whatever, France, there's so much information. Like even booking flights, some people are like they're so overwhelmed and they just there's you can't see the forest for the trees, so they just like, oh my gosh, it's too much. So that's like where my heart is because it's out of I want people to experience the world. There's more to the world than your four walls. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I want people to smell, hear the different languages. The world has so much to offer, and that's where that came from.
Okay. So then with the travel lounge, what do your members receive in there?
So the Travel Lounge is basically a community of curious travelers,
Mhm.
and it basically offers we have events twice a month on so the first event I had was a travel vision board. So make your own travel vision board. I'm
Mhm.
going to do a deep dive into the Irish culture. So there's all different events twice a month. I'm also going to have guest speakers from different countries, all things travel. There's
Mhm.
travel tips and not necessarily, I know you can Google a lot, but there's a lot of information that your average person wouldn't know to Google or wouldn't
Mm.
know. So there's a lot around that and checklists and deep dives, itineraries. And then, of course, I am a travel advisor. So you have access to me, any travel questions, any travel tips, hints, anything travel related.
Mm.
So that's what the Travel Lounge is basically about.
Okay. Okay.
Sandy's
Nice.
Travel Lounge.
Yeah. I know you said you're not a coach, but I do think the coaching is such an important aspect, and it really is understanding. And I think we talked a little bit about this, but like the fear will be there, right?
Hmm.
And it's okay to allow for it and go. And at the same time, there is a certain amount of strength and resilience that you build each time you do this. It's like a muscle that you will build that you go once, you do a tour, and then next time you do a tour and something else, or
Right.
you can do it. But I think it's really important that people understand that the more you do this, the more courage you have and the braver you become and the easier it
Exactly.
becomes, right?
And you start maybe with an English speaking country or
Mm.
even a different state. Like I actually had an interview with somebody about solo travel, and it took her a lot of courage for the first time she took a solo trip. I forgot where she's also in Canada, and she wanted to go to San Diego. So it doesn't have to be like across
Oh,
the pond.
right.
Start just and for a lot of people, like the language thing is like, oh my gosh, I won't understand the language, then go to an English speaking country, right? And then you'll
Mm.
realize, oh, so the next time I can go, and somebody was teasing me about Ireland, then they're like, well, they speak English, but their accent is so heavy.
Right.
But start small. And when I say I'm not a coach, I don't have a degree. Like I never did a
Right.
certification,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I feel like I've done so much work
Right.
and I've had so much experience that my life experience. But again, I'm not like an official. That's what I was. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to mention too is I think, and I can understand this perspective, it's like being at home. I wouldn't necessarily being at home here in a smaller town go out to dinner by myself or go to the movies by myself. But I can do that anywhere else in the world. I will do that
Yeah.
easily and comfortably and not think twice about it now. And I think that's also something you can build up to. But if you're concerned about that, I would say it's different when you're not at home. It just is. I can't explain it, but it is. And it's
It
easier.
is different.
Yeah.
And it's funny because actually funny enough, I was talking to somebody earlier, and we were actually she said I would never go to the movies on my own. I'm like, "Really?" I actually now I'm not a big movie goer, but if there's a movie I really want to see on a
Yeah.
big screen and don't want
Yeah.
to wait for it to come out, I've gone to the movies on my own, like whatever.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I've been to shows in other countries. I've
All the
been to the
time.
opera. I
All
went
the
to
time. Yeah.
Florence to an opera on my own. It was because the person I was with didn't want to go. I'm like, well, I'm going, and
Yes.
that's not going to stop me. And it was the most beautiful experience.
Yes.
There is something very empowering, like you said, about that, and I I don't know how to put this in words, but and maybe this is just selfish, but I'm not going to be stopped by somebody else if I want to do something, and I don't need anybody, you know what I'm saying? But you do sometimes you have to build up to that.
Yeah.
And so going out, like you said, going out to dinner, going to a coffee shop, going to a small short trip, but don't like take the leap. Trust yourself. Even if it's scary,
Yeah.
it's so empowering.
Yeah. And you find nobody really cares. Nobody
No,
even notices. I've had weird sort of waiters. Oh, you buy all this. Like, yeah, it's fine. But 99.9% of the time, nobody even notices you. Nobody cares. Nobody says anything.
no.
And I will tell you, again, going back to my trip to Paris last year, one of the things I wanted to do was go to the Ritz and have a glass of champagne. And even that took me like a few minutes to work it out. And then so I walk in, and as soon as I walked in, there was a man there with a little dog, and the dog pooped right in the middle of the entrance, right on the beautiful blue carpet, I think it was,
I
right?
know her
I thought, okay, I can handle this. This is if
dog.
this dog can poop there, then I can walk in for a drink, right?
I love it.
And then of course I walk in and they have this small sort of bar and they had tables and that, but they didn't have any tables available. So they're like, you can sit at the bar. I'm like, okay. So I did it. I sat at the bar and I ordered a glass of their best champagne.
No.
The bartender was very lovely. And yeah, but that even for me, for after 78 countries, it took me a moment to work up to it.
Right. And that's true, but you feel so good. So when I was in Florence, again, not the same, it was a different trip. This last time my daughter actually got married outside of Florence last April. Can't believe it's a year nearly.
Wow.
And so my son and his partner and I, we went to Florence for a few days before we drove up to La Paligna. And so Connor wanted to take his girlfriend out to dinner one night. I'm like, you go. And he's like, you're going to be okay? I'm like, yeah. So there was this really cute little trattoria right outside of our Airbnb. And I'm like, and I was in there and I was on my own and I ordered a glass of red wine and I had the best meal ever. And believe it or not, there was another lady on her own sitting like across from me. And we just smiled at each other and
Yeah.
it's like whatever. And you're right, people, they don't notice. It's our own perception or whatever. I always say, like you actually said on my podcast, but I always say that we're just a little speck in the whole universe and
Mhm.
we're not really that important. So people don't pay that much attention to us. I mean, I always say that I'm really not that important
Yeah.
in the whole scheme
Yeah.
of things. Yeah, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that story though, that the dog moved. That's
I just thought, well, this is it. This is not so fancy and so special after all. Yeah, I can just walk right in. It's not a big deal.
oh, funny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Anyway, so you mentioned Namibia. I mean, that's a fantastic location. That's been on my list for several years now. Where else would you like to go and see and do?
So Namibia is definitely then and that's planned for next year. I've never been to India and I've
Okay.
always wanted to go to India. So I've been to
Yep.
Sri Lanka, which I loved.
Hmm.
So India is and that's planned for February, March next year.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to that. Another place that I've always wanted to go to and I've never been, and I don't know why, because I've had a million opportunities, it's not hard to get to, is Iceland.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never been to Iceland. So
Yeah.
that's another place that I've never been to. I've been to Italy. I can't even count how many times, but there are certain areas, Medina in Italy, I've never been to, which I've wanted to see
Mhm.
further south. I've been to Capri and Ischia, but there's so much more around there. So I want to explore that again.
Mhm.
There's places in France that I've been to, but I'd like to go back to. I've been to the Loire Valley with all the castles, but I want to go back there.
Nice.
And another place that I really want to go is Thailand and Vietnam.
Mm,
Yeah. And
nice.
I know I'm going to get to all of
Right.
them.
I'm sure
I'm
you
going to make
will.
it work somehow.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough. I've been to India a few times and I really enjoyed it. I put off going there for many years just because it seemed chaotic to me and really busy. And I think that was mainly because, again, like working in some of the places I was working in, when I was finally able to get out for a break, I needed some calm and some quiet. And
Mhm.
India just isn't. completely.
Right.
So, but I loved it like when I was able to go and did I forget what they call it, not the Golden Triangle, but in Rajasthan and did
Yeah.
it's so amazing, the temples and the forts, the history there, the culture, the
Unbelievable.
architecture. It's really phenomenal. I was blown away. I would love to go back and see more. I went to go a couple times and did yoga retreats.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fun.
So the person that I'm organizing the trip with, actually, she lives in France. She's German, but she lives in France.
Mm.
And she goes to India every year for 6 to 8 weeks. So it's gonna be outside of Jodhpur.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that's how Jod. I never know how to
Jodhpur.
say
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Jodhpur. And it's gonna be, it's not a retreat per se, because we are going to do tours, but it is also going to involve some of the music, some of the Ayurvedic
Okay.
properties
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But that just reminded me, another place that I really want to go to is Mongolia.
Mm. Okay.
I really want to go to Mongolia. I mean, I keep Nepal. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but India is definitely, that's been on my bucket list. And Sri Lanka, I know we talked about dogs and adopting dogs in countries, but I nearly brought, and I know you said you did, but I nearly brought a dog home from Sri Lanka.
Mm.
And it's like, it's powerful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And yeah, the animals always
I
on
know.
me. I was like, I have two here from Lebanon. Well, we had three from Lebanon between the family, and then Molly from Iraq, and she's now 15 years old, I think, this year.
Oh,
This summer she'll be 15. Yeah. So I picked her back. I
oh,
picked her up back in 2011. So so she's 14. That was
oh.
14 years ago. So yeah, she was about a year old maybe when I picked her up. She's still going strong.
I have my one of my best friends is from Iran.
Mm.
And some point when when everything is a little more stable, I would love to, I know, I would love to go. She wants me to go with her when, because it's such a beautiful country from what I know about it. I've obviously never been, but that's another place. And their food, like, I love Persian food, and I love the
Yeah.
language and the history. And I'm a big Rumi, like, I love Rumi.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that whole culture, like,
Mm.
one day it's going to be stable enough to go, but I really want to go.
Right. And I spent a number of years in Iraq. So I was right in the neighborhood. But this is going back like 2008, 2012, so that period. And the two places that I never made it to, but that I kept looking at was Syria
Mm-hmm.
and Iran. And it was a little bit complicated and I probably could have figured it out, but with the visa situation,
Yeah.
particularly at that time, I don't think the Iranians were that keen on Canadians for some reason. Something had happened. And then with Syria too, like you had to be applying for some of these visas in your home
Yeah.
country,
Yeah.
and I couldn't do that. And then, so it was one of these things I thought, okay, I'll get there. And then by the time I was leaving Iraq, it was 2012, and
Yeah.
we were just receiving the first Syrian refugees
Refugee. Yeah.
at that point. So I haven't made it there. Yes,
I
I
know.
be fascinating.
My friend Shakufa, in fact, the Persian New Year is coming up in a few days, is Nowruz, and
Mm,
their whole culture around that. And they have a culture where they give kids new money, like it's newly printed money. And when my kids were little, she'd always go to the bank and they'd get like new bills. And now they're 27 and 30 and they're like, we don't get that anymore, you know. But all these, and then the new ruse table, the Persian New Year table, and it's just such a beautiful culture. And I have a Persian like necklace on, it's intertwined and everything with
mm,
one of the Farsi. That's actually a language, and I love languages too. I don't want to call
okay.
myself a polyglot because I only speak 3 languages, but I love languages, and Farsi is a language I'm always telling Shusha I want to learn. Yeah, Iran is definitely one day a country that I would love to visit, because
Mm.
I've learned so much about it with my friend Shakufa. And yeah, yeah.
Have you been to Egypt and Jordan?
I've been to Egypt and I've been to
Okay.
Jordan, and I
Okay.
love Egypt. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved Egypt
Yeah, me too.
so much.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's so rich in culture. And when you're, so we stayed at, it was back then, it was called the Manor House Oberoi. It used to be like a palace of one of the whatever. And it looks literally, and I think it's a Marriott now actually, but it looks literally right on the pyramids. And I
Oh, wow.
remember standing on the balcony when we first got there of our room and we had to, and again, I felt like this big. I felt
Yeah.
like it. And thousands of years ago building these in the Sphinx. It's energetically, it's just hard to put into words. You can see it and you can see documentaries and you can do virtual tours, but being there, and then I went horseback riding on an Arab, very well kept because I'm a big animal person. And,
Mm.
they have sometimes some countries, they have different philosophies around that, but it was a very well, and I just went in the, around the pyramids and just flying. It was eh, one of the most magnificent experiences of my life.
Right. Yeah, I was there. It was
Yeah.
a long time ago now that I was there, but certainly for me, like Luxor,
Mm.
Luxor, and the columns, and there's
Yeah.
the sphinxes along the
Ugh,
boulevard there.
incredible.
Yeah, and the tombs, just the detail in some of the tombs, the
It's,
paintings, that the colors are still there, so that you can see them after
I
thousands of
know. And I remember I was so annoyed. So here we are at the Giza pyramids, and there's people literally crawling on them.
years.
And I'm like, hello, like the disrespect. And of course they have, the guards or security, whatever, walking around and they call them off. But I'm like, do you even know? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't have much tolerance for that, but
No.
it's just thousands of years. And like China, too. You go to China and some of these 1,000-year-old temples, and it's so powerful and so beautiful.
Mhm.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
just,
I always
it
think
just,
if I had it to do over again, I would become an Egyptologist and go back.
oh my gosh, it's so funny. So one of my equestrian mentors, actually from back in the day, he's an Egyptologist.
Oh,
He
really?
studied Egyptology, I guess, in UCLA. He's German, but in UCLA, and he
Wow.
was a professor of Egyptology. And it's funny because on his Facebook, he's still obviously very interested in it, even though he doesn't work in that field anymore. And he posts like hieroglyphs and jokes about hieroglyphs and everything. So it's so cool. It is so cool. I had a cartouche with my hieroglyph name
Yeah.
in
Oh, nice.
hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I could go on forever here. I mean,
I know.
yeah,
I
I
know.
haven't revisited some of these stories in a while, so
It's like our soul lights up. I
it's
feel like we
true.
have a lot in common. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back out there soon, and we'll see. I don't have any plans right now, but definitely. But the funny thing is, I keep thinking I would like to go down. I haven't been to South America at all, so definitely all of the countries there are high on my list. And I would like to go back to Paris just for Christmas time. I keep thinking
Mhm.
December might be a nice time just to go for a few days and
Yes.
see the lights and the decorations. I think
Yes.
that would,
Yes.
yeah.
That's actually one. I haven't been to South America either, and or Central America, and one of the places I would like to see the Machu Picchu. I would love to go to Peru.
Mm. Hmm.
That is a place I would like to go. Like I said, it's like the world is just so beautiful and vast, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the Galapagos Islands too. I think that was one of the first places. I remember when I was a kid, we got these. Do you remember? I don't know if you ever saw, like there was the National Geographic magazine, but then they had one for kids.
They
I can't
did.
remember what it was called. But I love that magazine. And I remember reading about the Galapagos Islands, and that's always been on my list as well. I haven't made it
Yeah,
yet, but
Ecuador and then
yeah. And
yeah.
Easter Island too. Easter Island.
Yes. Exactly. Easter Island. Actually, I was reading something about that in one of my many travel,
Yeah.
whatever newsletter or emails I get. And there was something about the Easter Islands. Yep.
Yeah.
You're the second person who mentioned the Galapagos Islands to me today, though. That's
Mm.
funny. Oh,
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. This has been a lot of fun. Again, please come back anytime and let's talk about more travel and keep us updated on your trips. And definitely, I'm keeping my eye on that Namibia trip.
Yeah,
Could be tempted.
absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about the various travel stuff. So thank you so much.
You're very
And we'll definitely stay in touch.
okay. Well, we'll put all of your links and information in the show notes. So if anybody wants to look you up, I highly recommend the podcast and then check out Sandy's Travel Lounge for more information. And yeah, maybe we'll see you there. All right.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Sandy.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Daring Adventure podcast with your host, Trista Gurton. We hope you enjoyed the tips and conversations on how to get excited about life again. You can also follow Trista on Instagram at Trista V. Gurton. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.